In blue, what did we have to apply? We had to apply the power of what? The power of 4. In red, what are we going to have to apply? The power of 3. So here's what I want you to do. First thing, you're going to do negative 4 over 3, close parentheses to the power 3. Then, open parentheses, d to the 5th, close parentheses to the power 3. Then, open parentheses, f. I know it's kind of a fancy f. I'll just do a regular f. Ready? To the power of 3. Now, right now, a negative times a negative times a negative still stays a negative. So this is going to be still a negative 4 to the 3rd over 3 to the 3rd. Yes, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. But I'm just going to leave it like this for right now. Okay? D to the 5th power to the 3rd power. What am I allowed to do with these? No. Multiply them, because it's the power of a power.
It's 45th.
The 15th.
15th.
5 times 3 is 15. No, you're not. Just confused. Right here, this is f to the 1st to the 3rd power. So what are we left with? F to the 3rd. Very good. Oh, that's the 3 there. There we go. So right now, this is what you have. All right? So right now, what I'd like us to do is we're going to worry about the numbers right here. We're going to worry about the numbers. I'm going to highlight that in green. I'm going to highlight this in green. Okay? So right now in green, I'm going to work out just the numbers without the calculator. Here we go. Right here, I have a 3 to the power of 4. Over here in the numerator, what do I have? I have a negative what? Negative 4 to the power of 3. That's being what? They're all being multiplied together, correct? These are all being multiplied. Here we have 2 to the power of 4, and here we have 3 to the power of 3. So let's think about how we can simplify this without even having a calculator. Okay. See if this makes sense to you. How many do we have in the denominator right here? We have 3. How many do we have in the numerator? 4. So I can cancel all of these out, and we're still left with 1. So now we have simply a 3 in the numerator. Okay? Now this is where students, right now we have a 3 over what? We have 3 over 2 to the 4th. That's what we have left right now. Right here we have a negative. Now watch what I'm about to do. It's over a 1. Because it's canceled out. I'm going to change the number 4. I'm going to change it to a 2 that has been squared. Because 4 by itself is what? 2 squared. Now, what's there on the outside? What do we have? We have a what? 3. So right now, hopefully you guys can see that this number 4, I've changed it to what? I've changed it to 2 squared. Now you guys have calculators, and this is where you're most likely just use the calculator to get everything. I'm just showing you how the law of exponents works. So right here, what can I do with that 2 and that 3? Multiply together. So we have 3 over 2 to the 4th times a negative 2 to the 6th. Because 2 times 3 is 6.
Wait, why would it be 2 for 1? Denominator.
We're not done yet. We have 2 to the 4th. We have 2 to the 6th. What are we allowed to do with the 6 and the 4? Cancel them out, right? So what's 6 minus 4? 2. So that, all of that's canceled. And I realized, hey, you're dealing with teenagers. Half of the teenagers have already checked out 5 minutes ago. All right? So right now, what does this cancel to? That cancels to a 2. And 3 times a negative 2 squared, everybody, is negative 12. Now, yes, you have a calculator, so if you had a calculator and you did 81 over 16 times a negative 64 over 27, This right here is the 81 over 16. This is the negative 64 over 27. And you multiply them together, you would get negative 12. But sometimes you're going to be called upon to do things without a calculator. And I'm just showing you how to simplify things without a calculator. So what's the coefficient? I realize it's a lot of work to get to a negative 12. Okay? That's a lot of work, and I realize most of you don't like doing that. But some of you do. So for those of you who do, that's how you do it. So what was the product of these two right here? What did that end up becoming? Negative 12. So all that got us to negative 12. Now, what can we do with the d to the 8 and d to the 15? What are we allowed to do with those? Simply add them together. So that's going to give you d to the 23rd. What are we allowed to do with the f to the power of 16 and f to the power of 3? Add them together, that gives you f to the power of 19. There you go. And by the way, that is your final answer simplified. We don't have any negative exponents. Okay? So once again, what we'll do in the calculator to show you what to do in the calculator right here, I will simply do this in the calculator times this in the calculator, and it'll let you know that it is indeed a negative 12. All right? So go to your calculator. I'm going to clear this out from my pre-calc class. I'm going to go parentheses. 3 divided by 2, close parentheses, and the first one was raised to the power of what? Raised to the power of 4. And you get this. Remember where I said it was 81 over 16? Right? So if I hit the math button and press enter twice, there's the 81 over 16. Now, the other one, I'm going to do open parentheses and do negative 4 divided by 3, close parentheses, raised to the power of what? 3. Press enter, you get this decimal. You hit the math button, press enter twice, what do you get? Negative 64 over 27. Alright? So all you guys have to do is take this guy, right here, and we're going to multiply it to this guy right here. And yes, the calculator does spit out the answer.
How do we eliminate this automatically down?
Well, you scroll up. You can scroll up and grab what you want. So by the way, yes, you have a calculator, so can you do all of your fractions this way? Yes. Until you get a test where it says no calculator used. Okay. Then you get your own. All right, so our final answer, everybody. What was our final answer to this entire problem?
Negative 12, e to the 43rd, f 19.
Good, very good. We only have one more problem left, and then you guys are going to be doing stuff on your own. So here we go. Problem number 9. Write it down in its entirety and get ready to work. Problem number 9 has a bunch of parentheses and a bunch of negative exponents. And what are we not allowed to have as a simplified answer? And a bunch of parentheses. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to tackle this problem in 2 ways. We're going to focus on just getting our answer for the numerator. And then we're going to focus on just getting the answer for our denominator. Okay? So we're going to focus just on the numerator right now. Right now, do we have to worry about any powers right outside these parentheses on the outside? We don't. So all we have to do is worry about the coefficients. The coefficients, what are we going to do with them? We're going to multiply these coefficients together. And what is that going to give us? That's going to give us 15. So we're allowed to do that. Okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight right here. We have x to the negative 2, and we have an x by itself, which is to the power of 1. What are we allowed to do with the negative 2 and the 1? Add them together. And that's going to give us x to the negative 1. Okay? Now, yeah, we'll worry about it in a little bit. Okay? Now, the next thing we have is we have y to the power of 3, and we have y to the power of negative 8. Yeah, so we're going to put y to the negative 5. So that's what our numerator is right now. We're not done, but that's what our numerator is just to begin with, okay? And all we did was what? Simply take a -2 and add a 1 to get the -1, and we took a 3 and we added a -8 to get a -5. That's how we got those two exponents right there. Now let's look at the denominator. We've got a power of a power, like a power to a power. What do we do when we have a power of a power? That's the time we multiply. So this is going to be x to the -12. And then we have y to the -2. Holy cow, we got a bunch of negatives all over the place. And this is where the trick that I was telling you guys about. What are you allowed to do? It's not really a trick, it's just what you're allowed to do.
You're allowed to switch them.
Yeah.
Make them positive.
So we're going to take the -12 and we're going to move it up to the top. And we're going to take the -1 and we're going to move it where? We're going to move it down below. We're going to take the -2, bless you, and move it up. And we're going to take the -5 and do what with it? Move it down below. Now, don't forget, you still have this number 15. It just stays exactly where it is. So once again, before we move on, make sure you see we took the -12, x to the -12, we moved it up. We took x to the -1, moved it down. And then we just basically exchanged places with our y values as well. Not like that. Almost. Almost. This is not our total answer simplified. It's not hard. If I had x to the 12 divided by x to the first, what are we allowed to do with those?
Oh, you're allowed to
Subtract it. That's right. This answer, you're right. This answer is x to the 11. Okay? Now, right here, if I have y squared over y to the 5th,
y over y to the third.
1. It'll be 1 over y to the 3rd. But this right here, if you do 2 minus 5, what do you get? You get y to the -3. But what is y to the -3 actually equal to? 1 over y to the 3rd. Okay? So here's your final answer, everybody. Your final answer is a 15. We do have x to the 11th up top, but what do I have in the denominator? Y to the 3rd. In the denominator. Okay, now, this is where, like, wait a second. How do we have that in the denominator? Let me explain before this video ends. What does y squared mean? It means y times a y value. What does y to the 5th mean? Y. And any number divided by itself is a 1, so these cancel out, and how many y's do we have left in the denominator? 3. That's why it's y to the 3rd in the denominator. Okay? So, here's a little trick that I do. By the way, this is right here. This was your final answer. All right? But if I'm ever given a problem like this, like x to the 10th over x to the 25th, where am I going to have the most x's? Where do I have the most x's? In the bottom. So I just do 25 minus 10, and I know it's going to be 1 over x to the 15th. So instead of doing 10 minus 25 and getting x to the -15th, where eventually I have to change it anyways, I just know that I'm going to have more variables in the denominator than I am in the numerator. Okay? So what I want you guys to do is I want you to do all the even problems on your own, and we'll see how far you can get without my help.
How do we know that 15 is going to go on top?
Oh, how do you know the 15 is supposed to go on top? Because 3 times 5 is 15, and that's right there. It stays in the numerator.
I wrote a bottom. Well, there you go.
All right, right here, this is your final answer, right here. Final answer simplified. How do I know it's my final answer simplified? Because there's no parentheses, and there's no negative exponent.